Okay, so yeah, we are super lucky, super super excited to have you. I wish more people, a lot of people were very excited, but I think it was just the time of day for them. A lot of Central Illinois people are eating dinner. um, so we are definitely recording it and sharing it for our team. But I think Jenny went ahead and gave you some of our questions. And then if you just want to tackle those, introduce yourself, explain, your story. I'm really excited to hear about that. And then if we have time at the end, we can ask any other questions that we have. Does that sound good?
That sounds fantastic.
Okay. In a couple of minutes, that's fine if you do.
You just define those questions.
Oh, okay.
I totally watched What the Health last night, my wife and I. Because was that?
Jenny and I were just talking about all the different Netflix health, like Cowspiracy. I've seen that.
Yeah.
There's a few of those.
There's a lot. I mean, it's first of all, thanks for having me. I'm always happy to get on a call with Beachbody folks and coaches, because ever since I've known Tony Horton, I knew about Beachbody. I had no idea who he was even, and he came on one of my retreats. So I've been doing this ski, snowboard, yoga retreat for since 2004. So it's been 13 years, and it was Mammoth. And then now it's the last 5 years, it's been Jackson Hole with Tony. And, and he was somebody on that retreat. They were like, I think that's that guy with that infomercial. I'm like, what infomercial? like what infomercial? I don't watch any infomercials. And they're like, no, I think he's like a legit, exercise. Like he's got this program, blah, 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 whatever. I was like, I don't care. And I basically, we were just kind of chasing each other down the mountain and became great friends. So through him, I've met loads of coaches and was at Summit last year and was planning on going this year, but we just found out we actually have to shoot the Friday of Summit. So I don't know if anything, I'll do a quick Tuesday to Thursday and come back, or I don't know, maybe I can convince Carl to send me out there for Saturday or something. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm always happy. So thank you very much. I was telling Jennifer, I'm always happy to get on a call. So I'll give you a quick sort of, who I am and kind of where I came from and all that good stuff. And then I'll get into questions. Basically, started way back in, this is, sorry about that. That's my phone, which links to my computer. So apologies. Anyway, so started as an athlete growing up, playing lacrosse and football and all that sort of stuff back on the East Coast of New York and Long Island, then moved to New York City, and then moved to LA and came out here to go to school, kind of get away from some of the family drama back in New York, and went to UCLA. So started at Santa Monica College and then transferred to UCLA. And at UCLA, I actually played lacrosse. After UCLA, so always an athlete, working out all the time, but didn't get into endurance sports until 2000. Now, right around 96, 96, 97, I started doing yoga. I had done this project, this film actually, and I poured my heart and soul into this thing. I produced it and I wrote it, directed it, and it was just turned out to be like a financial disaster. So I was kind of just down in the dumps, and I had a friend say, "Hey, I'll take you to this yoga class." And I was like, "Yeah, Sting does yoga. I've always wanted to try it. Sure, why not?" And so I went to that class, and it was Brian Kest in Santa Monica, and it was like a donation class, and I just fell in love with yoga. At that point, it felt like it was spiritual, emotional, mental, physical kind of cleanse, like a wringing out all in one shot. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I never thought I would teach, but thought, wow, I just felt like it was something that I could do forever and I would love doing forever. For whatever reason, I just felt like there was so much depth to moving your body. I don't know what it was about that class, because he was not spiritual at all. He's like, oh, I farted, I mean, he's like, he's funny and he's a great guy, but there was no kind of spiritual anything. It was basically like, when you're bending down, don't look at the person next to you and think you should be doing what they're doing. You should be doing what your own body is supposed to be doing, right? And so it was really practical information, which I thought was great because it was non-threatening in a way. And I think a lot of people get turned off from the yoga practice because they're like, oh, there's these yogis and it's from India and it's spiritual and it's weird, and they're doing all kinds of pretzel-y moves. I think there's a lot of different reasons why people get turned off from the yoga practice. Anyway, so that was back in 96, 97. And then in 2000, that was when I did my first teacher training. And not to teach, only to take my practice deeper, to learn more about what I was actually doing. And that was great. During that time, someone said, oh, hey, there's a studio over in Venice and they're looking for teachers. Do you have any interest in teaching? And I was like, well, I really thought about it, but sure, why not? I just spent a couple grand on this course. I may as well make my money back. And I started teaching Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, 7 o'clock. No one showed up. I get 1, I get 2, I get 3 people, 5 people. And that's sort of how it worked. And then I started teaching an evening class in Malibu, actually. There used to be a studio called Malibu Yoga. So I was teaching those, and then I got a private client, and I started to build. Now, that same year, I also ran my first marathon. So I had been practicing yoga for 3 years and then didn't do any other exercise. I gave up going to the gym. I gave up running. I did nothing but yoga for almost 3 years. And then I finally said, okay, I want to do a little bit of cardio. So I was going to run a couple miles a couple times a week. That was it, just to kind of get my heart moving, more so than yoga. So I did that. On the third week, I had a friend basically say, hey, we're doing this marathon. You got to do it with us. And I said, I'm not doing a marathon. Marathons are bad. I'm a yogi now. I don't do those kinds of things, right? So I had this full-on elitist vibe of what I was doing, which is totally happens to a lot of people. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll run your 10 miles. Because he's like, look, we're doing the fartlek technique, which he didn't call it that. But he's like, we're running 3 minutes and walking a minute, running 3 minutes and walking a minute. And that's how we're going to do the whole marathon. I thought, anybody can do that. So I said, all right, if I do the 10 miles and I don't feel like I'm going to hurt myself, then I'll do the marathon. 6 weeks later, we were on our way to San Diego doing the Rock and Roll Marathon. And it was awesome. I had like this total euphoric experience coming around mile 25. And I remember there was like these balloons across the street and I'm sitting here running, and it was like, I don't know, 4.5 hours or however long it took me. And I didn't care. All I knew was that I was going to finish this marathon. So I come under this thing and I'm running. And then all of a sudden I start like weeping. Like and I'm like, what is going on? I was overcome by tears, and I had no idea why I was breaking down emotionally. But then it finally hit me. I was like, wait a second, like stop for a second. And I didn't stop, thankfully. But I thought, if I did stop right then and walk the rest of the way, I was going to finish a marathon. And that was never anywhere in my psyche, ever. I never was like, oh, someday I'm going to do a marathon. I'm just a little guy from Long Island. As far as I'm concerned, the marathons are for professional athletes and Olympians. And here I was circumnavigating San Diego on foot, 26 miles. And I knew at that point I could stop and walk the rest of the way and I was going to finish. And that was such a huge deal. Like I didn't stop, but I did finish. And I crossed that finish line and I was like, man, if I can do this, I can do anything. Like that, it just sort of gave me that license to say those words. And I started to think differently from that point on, really. It was because I thought, wait a second, if I just, in the span of 5 or 6 weeks, someone put an idea in my head and then I trained for it and then I accomplished it, what else? And that was nowhere in my sphere of goal setting or, possibly someday maybe I want to do this kind of thing. Never. It was nowhere in the universe as far as I was concerned. And then I did it. So then I started thinking, wait a second, what else is there that's not in the universe right now that I could possibly do to make my life amazing. And so all of a sudden, my muse, I guess, in a way, became the unknown, right? There was no limit. So after that, there was a girl that was training, a woman who was training with us in the group, and she said, hey, I want to do a triathlon. And my cousin had done the triathlon. And I thought, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. I'm in. I want to do a triathlon. It took me 6 weeks to do a marathon. How long can it take to do a short triathlon? And I got into the pool and I swam 10 laps. I was like, there's no way I'm swimming a half mile. Swimming is horrible if you're not used to swimming. But I did it. And that was the Malibu triathlon, which I'm doing again this year. And it will be like my 10th time in the past 17 years. I don't even know. But I went from doing the marathon to the triathlon to doing what's called adventure racing. And adventure racing is long endurance sports, because the same company that was putting on the triathlon also put on this adventure racing, 24-hour adventure race. Adventure racing is basically like a triathlon is swim, bike, run. An adventure race is kayak, mountain bike, trail run. But you also do it with a team, and you have navigation. So you have a map, and you're looking at your compass and your map. You're not allowed to have a watch that tells you where you're going. So so basically you race. It was like the greatest thing. It was like being an adult Boy Scout and going really fast. It was the coolest thing. So for about 5 years, I started doing that, and I just loved it. And it was like 8 hours of training. We'd go run for 2 hours, and then bike for 3 hours, and then run for another couple hours. And it was awesome. I never got to the point, even though I would get tired, but I was always like, well, I don't know what I can do. And I've already proven to myself that I can do what I don't know I can do. So may as well keep going. You know what I mean? That just sort of became my motto. Anyway, this whole time I continued to do yoga, and I continued to practice yoga, and I continued to teach yoga. And that sort of became my business. I think in 2003, I quit the job I had in college, which was working as an admin at UCLA Medical Center. So I was a student there, but I was also working in their hospital. And then finally 2003, because I graduated college in 96. In 2003, I quit there, and I was like, I don't need it anymore because I have enough income coming in from yoga, and I was also doing massage too at the time. So anyway, so that was kind of like how that all the last sort of 10 years and got me to, I guess that would be 2005, 2006. And right around 2007, 8, I opened up my first yoga studio. And here in Malibu, it was called Point Doom Yoga. Had that for a few years and then let that go because I had no reason to own 2 yoga studios or 17 yoga studios. That was never my thing. And, but I did do retreats, and I started a company in 2005 actually called Adventure Yoga Retreats, which is where I met Tony. And that was another one of those things. I was doing the adventure racing and I was training really hard, but I had the yoga portion of my sort of, I was like peaceful on one side and extreme intense athlete on the other side. How can I bring these two together? And then finally I was like, wait a second, maybe I'm the guy to say, hey, look, all these great benefits from yoga can be used in your athletics, right? Whatever that is, whether you're a runner or a skier or, a hiker, or you're doing Insanity or any other program, any other fitness program, yoga to me became at that point, when I finally realized, I was like, oh my gosh, yoga is the perfect complement to anything. Whether you're a single mom chasing around kids or married and chasing around kids, or, it doesn't matter. To me, if you're sitting at a desk or you're an athlete, yoga is going to help you in so many ways. And that sort of became my mission, is essentially to kind of take the benefits of yoga and bring them to athletes everywhere, essentially. Yoga and mindfulness. And that's basically what's been happening. So the second studio I have now which is my only studio at where I saw Jennifer this morning. Is it Jennifer? Jenny? Either way. So there's that. And then Adventure Yoga Retreats is still in existence after 12 years now. And we just recently, in fact, today's Thursday, I got back Monday morning, so 3 days ago, from this amazing trip to Peru. And we got to visit Machu Picchu, and we got to see kids, because a friend of mine has an organization called the Go Campaign. In fact, those of you that are original P90X fans, Scott Pfeiffer is the Pfeiffer Scissors. So you know about Pfeiffer Scissors? So Scott Pfeiffer started a nonprofit called the Go Campaign. It was originally Tuna Hockey, but it became the Go Campaign. So he and I lead these trips together, and we go visit projects around the world that he supports, his organization. So we visited an orphanage and 3 schools on this particular trip. And it was amazing because 2 years ago, we did a very similar trip. And we went to this one school that was brand new, and this time around, 2 years later, they have a greenhouse, and the kids are learning about horticulture, and they're learning about vegetables, and they're growing their own vegetables. And it's amazing what a little bit can do to help these kids. And that really, when we do a big trip, and the ski trip is different, right? When Tony and I do our ski trip, we're just having fun and skiing and kind of hitting it hard. But when we do these bigger trips and we go around the world, next year we're going to go back to Africa, and it's different because you bring in that service element to it. So you're going on safari, or you're visiting Machu Picchu. You're doing what you would do if you were a tourist, but you're also getting a bit deeper into the culture, into the community, and ultimately giving back if you can, in a way, whether that's money or time or effort or just spreading the word of awareness. And that saying, listen, my belief is like our culture is really abundant. There's enough crap that we have. And if we shared it a little bit more, the world would be a better place. So that's sort of the mission kind of behind Adventure Yoga Retreats, is to go travel, have this amazing time, have a healing, a trip that's not like at the beach sipping umbrella cocktails and then being drunk all week long and then coming back and going, I need a vacation for my vacation. This is like invigorating, where you come back and you're like, man, I just love life and I want to get back into life. So that's kind of what happens in those trips. So we just got back from that. So that's kind of, I guess, sort of where I came from and how I got to where I am today.
I love it.
Now, let's see. All right, I'll go through some of these questions fairly quickly, probably, and then I can open it up for some other questions. So, let's see. Before, it was really recommended to exercise while doing the Ultimate Reset. After the 3-week yoga retreat was launched, it's become recommended fitness option for the reset. So I also know that B has some yoga sequences. I think they're kind of partnering with the reset, if I'm not mistaken. What are the extra benefits of doing the 3-week yoga alongside Ultimate Reset beyond the benefits of the stretch? Do you think it makes a noticeable difference in people who are doing the reset, those who don't do any exercise at all? I mean, I would definitely say yes, because yoga has a much more healing process to it. I think of yoga as like an internal massage. You're moving around your muscles, you're creating circulation, and then at the end, you're taking Shavasana, so you're forced to take some time to relax. I remember when I first, in the beginning of my relationship with Beachbody, and I first signed my contract, we had meetings with all like the main people, and Darren Olean and Isabel, who co-created Shakeology together, their favorite product that Beachbody has is the Ultimate Reset. They're like, this is by far the best product that we sell, because they really believe that it has the most potential to change somebody for good, right? And they initially, once they saw what we designed for the 3-week yoga retreat, they said they felt like it was too hard, especially my week in the 3-week yoga retreat. Maybe Vitas's week might be chill and Faith's, but once you start hitting Elise and then my week, I think what they're saying is you should go on like really simple walks. That's really what they're like. Maybe a gentle hike with the ultimate reset. But if you can handle it, so there's, I don't know, some of you guys may know Mark Briggs. Mark Briggs is a good friend of Tony's, and he and I have known each other for a little bit now, thanks to Tony, through Tony. And he's like, Ted, the fact that there's a 3-week yoga retreat is the only reason I will do the ultimate reset now, because he works out, every day. He's lifting 100-pound sandbags, and he's like, I'm not going to just not do anything for 21 days. So for him, it gives him the opportunity. So depending on who you are, I would say, exercise, but do what you can. I think with the ultimate reset, one of the biggest things, and with any of these programs, and this is going to be sort of a partial answer in the what the health question too, which is we're all sort of an experiment of one. And ultimately what is important is how you feel. So if you're the kind of person who starts if you're like, that's it, I'm committing to this ultimate reset and I'm going to kick ass during the next 21 days and not do anything, and all of a sudden you're lightheaded and you feel dehydrated and it has a big effect on you, then I wouldn't do anything. But if you're like, oh, it's not so bad, I feel pretty good, maybe I can test the waters always, right? It's okay to test a little bit and then see what you can do. I wouldn't push yourself, because part of the idea behind the reset is this healing factor, getting your body into a much more alkaline state and allowing the recovery of, your body and kind of flushing out. So it's like a cleanse and a reset all in one. So your body goes through a lot there, which is why they're not recommending too much. I would say meditation and yoga, easy yoga. But if you're like a regular yoga person, if you're working out once a day and you're doing yoga once a day, that's 2 times a day, to do nothing might be too much. So that's my answer there. Personally, I'd love to hear his story about healing himself, as well as how he got involved with Beachbody, what he loves about the company. It's an insight on who to market yoga to, especially minus the spiritual component. Unfortunately, a good portion of my market are people who have not come around to the idea that yoga is not all gongs and somehow connected spirituality religiously to something other than God himself. Yeah. So this is actually a big deal, I think. And I was talking, some of you guys I'm sure know who Tracy Morrow is. She's another one of the founding coaches. And her crew, she's very religious and Christian, and a lot of her team are as well. So the way I see it, as far as the religious aspect of yoga goes, is you just take it out. I mean, there's no reason. I mean, Jenny's in my class. It's not. There's not a lot of spirituality. For me, it's about connecting with your innermost self, which I feel like is in a way kind of the divine. And in the Bible, they say the kingdom of heaven is within. So it really comes from that place. And I think depending on what your religion is and how you practice it, I would say that this is just going to bring you closer to that relationship with your God, for instance. So, but if people are like, oh, yoga is weird and it's spiritual and I don't want to do that because I practice this religion and that goes against this religion, then what I would say is don't think about it as a spiritual practice. Think about it as a body weight exercise. All you're doing is moving your body. Simply, you have a mat and you have your body and you're moving it in a certain way. I mean, I play music. I play, pop music on in my classes, right? So I just try to keep it light and fun and, not super serious and not, but that's another thing about yoga that people like, oh, I mean, that's fine. There's obviously, that works for a lot of people, but for me, it's about taking time out of your schedule, because we're always thinking, what am I going to do next? I got to do this, and I got to do that, and I got this there, and I got the kids, and I got this, and I got, this responsibility, now responsibility. So it's really just kind of checking out of your own mental, sphere for a minute and checking back into your body. So for me, it doesn't need to be anything except a simple body weight And now body weight exercise, everybody's talking about high intensity interval training, right? So it's, HIIT training, that's the body weight exercise. Same yoga is the same thing. It's just moving your body in a way. It's just different. You're not doing lunges and jumps, which we all know. You're doing a vinyasa, right? You're doing a flow. You're doing warrior 1 or warrior 2, so you're doing chair pose, right? I mean, there's nothing spiritual about chair pose. So, or there could be, right? It could be like, oh my God, it's so much more in touch with God thanks to chair pose, So, so it really becomes sort of back to your own thing. As far as the company goes, well, here's my plug. Beachbody Performance. This is Hydrate in the afternoon because, I was in the Peru trip. We were at average, the last 2 days we started at 14,500 feet and went to 16,200 or 300. So I was totally dehydrated. So I usually do one hydrate a day, whether I'm exercising or not. Like on a day I wouldn't be exercising, I would still do a hydrate. So I'm a huge proponent of the products. I do Shakeology once or twice a day. And then depending on my training, I'll do Energize and recover. And if it's a bigger exercise day, I'll even do the Recharge at night. Now, I will also tell you that as a contracted yoga teacher, yoga expert, I think they call us at Beachbody, they send me the products. They're not paying me to tell you that, but they do send me the products. If I was going to buy the products myself, I would buy, I think I was on a Shakeology monthly for a bit. And then funny enough, when we were in Jackson Hole doing a retreat, Tony and I, this is going back now, it's got to be 2 years ago because all the performance line was brand new at that time. He's like, hey, this is Beachbody's new stuff. You got to check it out. And at that time, there's no way you can tell what Recover is going to do for you if you try it once. I'm sorry, but there's, what I mean? You can go, oh, wow, it tastes really good. But there's really no way until you use it on a regular basis. And if you had, and you also need to kind of go through a time period of using it to see how it works and what's going on. And again, this becomes like, we're all scientists, right? We all have to be sort of scientists of our own making based on what we're using. Storying about healing myself. What do you mean? I've always been perfect. There's nothing that's ever been healed. No, I'm just kidding. It's funny. I don't, for me, the biggest thing, so I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but like the biggest thing for me, like the biggest point that I sort of had for me was back when I was 21 or 22 years old. So I'm 46 now, and I was 22, and I was like a major partier. So I was smoking, I was drinking, I was doing blow, I was in the whole thing. And I came this close to checking myself into rehab, but I got clean and sober, and that was a huge healing process for me. So that was, and I tell people on an individual basis, but I don't know that I've ever done it not like this. But anyway, so that for me was a huge thing. That was way before I started doing yoga. That was way before I was always an athlete, but that was way before I started doing endurance stuff. And that I was like smoking cigarettes. I smoked a pack and a half a day for like 5 years, pack to a pack and a half a day for like 5 years. And I was drinking 3 cups of coffee a day. I was an addict. And for me, I had, healing, as far as healing myself. What I did was I went to therapy. I went to 12 steps. I did that for a long time. And I self-help books. And then actually yoga was one of the things that helped me sort of maintain that level of peace, because in a lot of those programs, what they do is they provide you with tools on how to live. And without getting too detailed into my own personal history, I love my parents. They're both deceased, by the way. My mom died in 2005, my dad in 2007. God rest their souls. And they were fantastic, but they didn't exactly have a great set of tools to kind of hand me or my brothers, I have 3 brothers, to help deal with life. So I don't feel like I got a great set of coping skills. And so my healing story, I would say, is when I got clean back now 25 years ago, whatever it was, that I kind of, through therapy, through 12 steps, through self-help books, I kind of reparented myself in a way, and I gained what I would say are healthier coping skills, right? So did Beachbody have anything to do with that? No. But I will say that Beachbody has helped millions of people heal themselves in a way. That's just part of my story, and I'm always happy to share that, because it's not something I lead with. Like, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I've been sober for, X amount of years, and which is great, and that's fine. But for me, that was a time of my life. I don't necessarily, like, I haven't had a drink in 25 years. So how can I possibly be an alcoholic? I don't understand that thinking, right? Like, people say once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. But for me, it's just different. But again, this goes back to, we're all individuals, and you have to do what works for you. So for me, I did that for, 10 years, close to 10 years. And then I sort of evolved a little bit differently. So, I also believe that opportunity happens for people at a certain time. Like, you're ripe at a specific time for a specific opportunity, whatever that is. So years ago, I remember listening to Deepak Chopra's audio book called Synchro Destiny, and he was talking about how we're kind of like co-creating with the universe. And it was mystical and magical. And I was listening to this while I was traveling up to this men's retreat that I used to go to. And then I was coming back, and to make a long story very short, there were a lot of different things that happened. And it's probably just because I was thinking about this and listening to this audiobook at the time, but it was all about like manifesting. And I was headed back from San Luis Obispo to Malibu, and then from Malibu to Hollywood. And I had to pick up a friend of mine who had cancer at the time. And we were going to the Hollywood Bowl, and we were going to see the LA Philharmonic play Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. It was the World Festival of Sacred Music, and it was like a 9-hour outdoor festival of music, and the Dalai Lama was going to be there. So we were excited to see the Dalai Lama, and I was excited to see the LA Philharmonic play. And so all these different things kind of happened, and it was like, whoa, this is so weird. It's like, my car broke down, and then it was miraculously fixed, right? And then there was like a lot of traffic, and then all of a sudden it was like the seas parted, right? I mean, this is like exaggerating a little, but the point is that ultimately, I think, the better your relationship is with yourself, the better it will be with those around you. And so the healing, coming back to the healing, I think all that work that I did on myself allowed certain opportunities to come into my life. And maybe that's just, my way of looking at it. Another story that I remember Deepak Chopra telling one time was, he said, I walked across the airport, and at one corner of the big room in the airport, someone said, "Oh, hey, Deepak, are you meditating? You don't look so good, And he's like, "Oh yeah, maybe I'm not, right?" And he walked across the airport, and somebody else recognized him, and they were like, "Wow, Deepak, you look amazing. You must be meditating on a regular basis, And he realized that it was the other person's goggles that they were seeing him through, and that's important too, right? It's anytime somebody comes to me with some sort of information, if they're like saying something or whatever it is, I always try to take it with a grain of salt, because they're seeing whatever they're saying through their own lens of experiences, not to get too esoteric. But anyway, the healing, I think, is a lifelong process. So that's a little bit of my story there. I will say, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, I was also wondering about your I shouldn't say healing, but how you reversed Jenny mentioned you reversed your insulin resistance.
Yeah, I'll get to that for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. As far as what I love about the company, I just think the company, I remember watching that show, The 20s, because I was like, I need to watch this. What is this show all about? And I had to watch it. And I didn't watch all the episodes, I'm sorry. But I did watch the first couple. And I remember Carl actually saying, he goes, this initially was an infomercial company. And then it turned into a mission. And I've known Carl for a long time, thanks to Tony. And I respect that. It's a huge company and there's a lot of people involved and there's, but, whether you think they're just trying to make an extra dollar or you really believe in the products, I think that's a big deal. When the amount of people, you can look at all the transformations that people are having thanks to this company. And to me, that's a big deal. There is nothing like feeling good about yourself. There's nothing like feeling strong or feeling like you've conquered something and feeling confident. And all those things happen when you take part in these programs that change your life. So, when we were at Summit last year and they announced the 3-week yoga retreat, he was like, we're just trying to provide coaches with tools to help you help other people. And of course, they're trying to make money. They're a company. They have to make money, right? So, but, that's better than soda. You know what I mean? So I actually am sort of, hook, line, and sinker like the company. What's my favorite Shakeology recipe? Well, have you guys tried the vegan vanilla? It's like friggin' cookie dough. It is so good. So nowadays I'm like, oh man, I'll take some vegan cookie dough, but vegan vanilla. Anyway, I do have a little coffee in the afternoon. I would say 4 times a week, maybe, not every day. I don't have coffee in the morning because I don't like, it's too much for me. I already have enough energy when I wake up in the morning. I don't need any more because I get jittery if it's the first thing I have. I'll have some tea, but anyway, so recipe that I love is half cafe latte and half chocolate. So like a little mocha mix. That's kind of, I would say, if I had to pick one, that's my favorite one. After watching the new Netflix documentary, What the Health, I'm wondering your take on eating meat animal products, especially since you mentioned you're paleo. Yeah, I limit my meat and animal. I haven't done meat. I haven't done chicken and or red meat it's got to be over 15 years now. So I do fish a couple times a month, maximum usually, and I do eggs a few times. So thanks to your questions, I watched What the Health last night with my wife, and they just got so down on eggs. I was so bummed. I was like, oh man, are you kidding me? Now I have to let go of eggs now? What is going on? But it made me realize, and this is kind of going to answer your question there, I think, a little bit, Rebecca. But I think it was a great film. I think everybody should watch the film because there's a lot of good stuff in there. As far as diet and what you're actually eating, I think it's important to understand how you're feeling, right? This goes back to the idea of we're all an experiment of one. And I feel pretty good. I wake up in the morning, I feel pretty good. I don't feel like I have a water. Usually first thing in the morning, I have a nice big cup of water to help keep me hydrated. When I train, I usually feel pretty good. If I'm tired, in the afternoons, I'll for sure go, you know what, I'm just gonna have a little afternoon coffee. But I like the taste too, so to me, it's not a big deal. For breakfast, honestly, I usually don't do a lot of breakfast. On the weekends, I'll have eggs on the weekends, usually Saturday and Sunday. But maybe once a week, I'll I'm getting more and more into this whole intermittent fasting thing. So I'm trying to. There's a guy named Dr. Walter Longo, who's an Italian guy, but he runs the longevity center at USC. And he basically does 2 meals a day, and he doesn't eat for 12 hours a day. So if he stops eating at 8 o'clock at night, he won't eat again. And coffee is included in that 12 hours. So like if you were going to have coffee at 8 a.m., that means you can't eat anything, after 8 p.m. So I try to do that. And we started eating earlier because we have a 16-month-old and Madison, and she's super cute. And we used to put her to bed and then eat after, but the three of us eat together. And that's usually around 5:30 or 6. So then I don't try not to have anything until I wake up the next morning. I'll have some tea, and I try to get, maybe I'll have a little piece of 85% organic dark chocolate or something like that. Or I'll have my recharge. And I know that you're supposed to take that an hour before bed, but depending on, I don't sleep 12 hours. So if I'm going to sleep 8 hours, I might have that a little bit earlier. Or I just won't have any solid food or anything. I'll just have water in the beginning. But anyway, the reason for that is I'm just learning all kinds of new stuff about how to get your body into this intermittent fasting causes, really, there's a lot of science behind how that essentially triggers your body into thinking it's starving, which kills a whole bunch of stuff, right? Not so good stuff. So it's something to think about. And calorie restriction has been around forever. So as a way to lengthen your life. So, and I bet most Americans could deal with not eating at least 30% of what we normally eat. So what I've also done is I make my lunch the biggest meal of the day. So dinner is usually a light, unless we're out to dinner or something like that. But here I'll just have a light salad or something like that for dinner, because in the Ayurvedic world, which is the sister science of yoga, they believe that when the sun is at its height, that's when your energy is moving the most. It's when your digestive system works the best. So that's one of the things they believe. So so I kind of bought into that a little bit and was just like, yeah, I'm just going to eat more during the day because I'm moving around a lot, and it's helping the digestive system. So, but I would say my take on eating meat and animal products is limit it as much as you can. Limit it as much as you can. As far as paleo goes, so I would consider myself a mostly vegetarian paleo guy, right? So, in fact, this is sort of a secret, but my wife is writing a vegan paleo cookbook right now. So I'll let you guys know when it's out. So she's back there. I don't know if I should be saying that or not. That's why I said it's a secret. But it's going to be in bookstores everywhere. Anyway, so what I try to do as far as the paleo goes is it's really more about the carbohydrate intake. So Mark Sisson, who I also met through Tony, he lives here in Malibu. He wrote the Primal Blueprint, and he recently wrote Primal Endurance, which I'm featured in as a story because this goes back to my insulin resistance. So I'll tell that story quickly. And basically what happened was at 40, decided to get my blood work done and didn't get it done until I was 43. I procrastinated a little. And then at 43, I got some pretty extensive blood work done. There was a doctor who had an office next to the studio, who had this connection with his lab, who does like latest, greatest tests. And it showed that I had some inflammation and insulin resistance. And I thought, what? I'm an athlete. I'm running, I'm biking, I'm swimming, I'm doing all this stuff. I didn't think it mattered what I ate. And that was a huge realization, right? And in the afternoons, I would grab a bag of chips as my afternoon snack and, have a corn chips, which I love. They're amazing, but they're 45 grams of carbohydrates in one bag. then I'd have maybe like an Arizona lemonade, which is like even more. I mean, so here's the bottom line. The bottom line is everybody has a pancreas. When you take in food or liquids, your blood sugar goes up. Your pancreas secretes insulin to stabilize the blood sugar. Because if your blood sugar keeps going up and up and up and up, your glucose level, if it keeps going up and up and up, you start to get the jitters, you start to get heart palpitations. It's not good for you. So it's why people with diabetes have to inject their own insulin. Otherwise, they're going to get sick. On the other side of things, now there's type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetics have a pancreas that doesn't work, so they have to have their insulin, and they have to have a thing on their arm that injects insulin. But that's usually something that happens at birth, and it doesn't really work. But there's a difference between type 1. Type 2 is what I was headed toward, which is what most people get when you're taking in too many carbohydrates in the form of sugar. In the form, this here, hydrate, has 10 grams of carbohydrates. I include this in my daily count of carbohydrates. So I'm taking that in. If I was taking in bread, any sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, any kind of sweet drinks, any kind of carbohydrate, which is bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, any kind of like sushi. Everybody's like, oh, I love sushi. Well, you got to start having sashimi because there's too many carbs in there. So think about it this way. If your body, if you're normal, quote unquote normal, your body can process about 50 to 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour. How do I know that? Because I work with a professional cycling team, and these guys are riding in the Tour de France, and I talk a lot to the doctors when I work with the team and the riders, and a lot of them, they know. So what they're trying to do is take in the form of bars and drinks and paninis. They're trying to take in 50 to 60 because they can burn it really quick. We have a tank of energy. One is for carbohydrates and one is for fat, okay? So when you take in the food, your pancreas has to secrete insulin that helps you stabilize your blood sugar, right? And if you continually take in carbohydrates on a regular basis, the pancreas continues to secrete insulin, continues to secrete insulin, continues to secrete insulin, and the pancreas thinks, hey, wait a second, I keep giving you insulin, but nothing's happening. It's not stabilizing. And the reason is because you keep giving it carbohydrates in the form of French fries and soda and, crap all on a regular basis. So eventually, after the pancreas keeps doing this, the pancreas is finally like, you know what? Screw you. Excuse my language. So basically, the pancreas goes from being grapes secreting insulin to raisins. And when that happens, you have type 2 diabetes. Your pancreas no longer secretes insulin because you've taken too many, you've overcarbed yourself, right? So I was heading in that direction. And when I found out that I was heading in that direction, I was like, this is impossible. How can that be? And what happened was I learned that my pre-energizer, I wasn't taking Beachbody stuff at the time, but my pre-energizer, my post-workout recovery, my gels, my banana, my oatmeal, and my protein shake with another banana and some blueberries, and all this stuff that I was taking, which was quote unquote healthy, was overstimulating my pancreas. And I had to stop it. I haven't had oatmeal in a couple of years. If I'm lucky, if I have like a bite of a banana every 3 months, just because I want to see if it still tastes the way I remember it. But so I don't do mangoes anymore. I don't do any kinds of big fruits. Berries are the thing. So I'll do strawberries and I'll do blueberries. But I've totally shifted my whole entire diet. So basically, and this is another thing about the What the Health movie, is they were talking about butter. Nowadays, I would do a little butter, right? Because I listened to Dave Asprey, who's the Bulletproof diet guy, and he's all about putting butter in your coffee. So I've done that before, but butter's, depending on the kind of butter you get, could be a healthy fat. So what I've done is I've increased my healthy fats. So I've increased my nut intake, my seed intake, my olive oil, extra virgin olive oil intake, my avocados. So I have salads on a regular basis, and they're veggie salads. We'll cook up some cauliflower and broccoli, and my wife will make some sweet potatoes, and I'll limit my sweet potato intake. So I'll just have a couple little, sweet potatoes in there, just a couple little bites just for the texture and the taste. But I won't go overboard with any of that stuff. And I try now what I was mentioning earlier with the banana. A banana is 30 grams of carbohydrates. A bowl of oatmeal is 30, 34, whatever it is. So I used to have a bowl of oatmeal with banana and some raisins. I was overstimulating my carbohydrates because remember, the pancreas can only handle 50 to 60. If I'm already with those raisins at 75, just from that little bowl of something, my pancreas is already like, dude, you're killing me. What am I supposed to do? So it's really important to know what it is you're taking in. Shakeology, by the way, has anywhere from I think 14 is the least amount of carbohydrates, all the way up to I think 19. One flavor has 18 or 19 per serving. That's not bad if that's the only thing you're having over the course of an hour or 2 hours. So that's why for me, in the morning, sometimes breakfast will be nothing until 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and then I'll have a Shakeology and maybe some nuts just as a solid, right? And then that'll get me through until 2 o'clock where I have lunch, or 1:30 or whatever it is, and then I'm having a veggie salad where I'm having roasted veggies and seeds and nuts, and well, not nuts until later. So anyway, I know that's a lot of information, but that's kind of my thing on that, and I am happy to explain a little bit more about that. But I know I'm talking a lot and no time for questions. So let me see if I can get through these last few questions, and then along that same line, how do you build muscle and not eat too many carbs while following a vegetarian or vegan diet? So if you saw What the Health, then you know that there's plenty of athletes that are they're vegetarians and vegans. So yeah, so I would say this, as an endurance athlete, you can train yourself to do a lot. And I would say, as an ultra runner, when I ran 50K, I didn't really take in that much. Your body is really way more powerful than we think or than we know. So I remember doing the Leadville. I'll just tell you a quick Leadville story. Leadville is it's a 100-mile race. I did the mountain bike. There's a 100-mile run and a 100-mile mountain bike race. I did the mountain bike race twice, 2014 and 15. And the first year I did it as a sugar burner. So every 30 minutes or 45 minutes, I was taking a gel, or I would take a bar, and then I would keep drinking my hydrate. The second year, and it took me 10 and a half hours basically to do the race. The second year, I took in 600 calories maximum. I had eggs in the morning with avocado, and I basically was drinking some hydrate. And so that was, I don't know, maybe I was taking one hydrate every 2 hours because I'd mix hydrate and water. And so that's 10 calories over the course. It was 9.5 hours, but let's just say 10. So if I did 10 of those, that's 100 grams of carbs. Plus, I think I did a bar that had 27 grams, we rounded to 30, over the course of 2 hours. So that would be 15. So I was taking in basically 25 grams of carbs per hour. So I'm taking in about 250 grams of carbs over the course of a 10-hour, very intense mountain bike race, all above 9,500 feet elevation. So the fact that I can do that, you could do it too. It's just a matter of training for it. So I would say that question it's all about training. And yes, you want to recover better, but just do it on the minimal scale. So instead of saying, I need to have, 900 carbs, 900 grams of carbohydrates because I had a big thing, go on as little as possible. Because your body is amazing at adapting, right? That's back in the Neanderthal times. That's what we did. We just adapted. We would get some food, we'd eat it, and we'd be fine for a really long time. So adaptation is a big deal. Will you ever launch your own program like Pi or something else? Please say yes. I would love to say I would love to say yes, but as far as whether that's with Beachbody or not, I need to talk to the powers that be. But this brought up a question. What I would like for you to tell me is, what kind of program would you like? Because I can create something. My wife was like, you need to do like a free YouTube challenge or something like that, which I would totally be interested in doing, because I'm filming on a regular basis back here. So give me some ideas and I'll create something for you guys. And then we can pitch it to Beachbody, and then we can hope they'll be like, oh my God, that was so good. Let's do it. What's the best yoga plan for someone who just wants to increase flexibility? X hours, X days a week of yin yoga. I would say yin, I try to do 2 to 3 times a week. I would say yin yoga 2 to 3 times a week is great. If you wanted to, that for sure is going to increase your flexibility for sure. If you can add in another 2 times of a little flow, because then you can heat up and get some of the bigger muscles moving and stretching, that would be great. As far as hours a day, I mean, I know the stuff on Beachbody On Demand is shorter, like half-hour segments mostly. Like my stuff that's in the Beachbody Yoga Studio now, I think they're half an hour. Most of them are about a half an hour long. There might be a couple 10-minute ones, but there's nothing more than that. Most yoga classes are at least an hour to an hour and a half. So I would say what I tell people is, if you really want to see big changes and you're new to yoga and you're starting out, minimum 3 times a week. I would say minimum 3 times a week, at least 30 minutes. Like definitely do that. And if you'll start to notice differences in like a week or 2 weeks for sure. All right. Those are the questions. I've officially answered each one of them. So I'm happy if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I took a ton of notes, so that was really helpful. I just missed the name of the guy that you said wrote Primal Blueprint and Primal something else.
Yeah, Mark Sisson. Mark, Marksisson.
Yeah, I'm very fascinated in that vegan paleo thing, because I've kind of done paleo, and my best friend does it and she loves it, but she focuses very heavily on the meat.
Yeah.
Eats a lot of meat, and that's just, I just can't, I don't feel good when I eat. And I also have a hard time finding grass-fed, good stuff. So, and my husband is the other, he would be vegan. Like he would want, if I would do it and if we could commit. So that's pretty cool.
Well, I will definitely let you know. Like, I don't know, we might be 4 or 5 months out from her thing, but for sure I'll let you know, because but what I would say too is, paleo and Mark Sisson is a great resource. He has something called Mark's Daily Apple, which is like it's not daily anymore, but it's pretty regular blog, and you can get his newsletter. But he is being paleo is mostly vegetables.
Yeah.
They're not doing meat daily. They're not even really like a few times a week. It's really like once or twice a week. So I think that might be a little bit of a kind of a modern, and that's the thing. That's why the Atkins diet got such a bad rap for a while, because they were falling into what's called ketoacidosis. They weren't going into ketosis. They were going into ketoacidosis, which are 2 totally different things. Like ketosis is what you want. That's going to help it's a higher fat diet, higher fat diet. And so you're using ketones to fuel your brain, but ketoacidosis is like bad news. It's like kidney failure. You're like not feeling well, vomiting, throwing up, pain. I mean, that's really bad news. But a lot of people that were doing the Atkins diet were falling into that. So
do you have thoughts or anything on because the keto diet now is like really picking up?
Yeah. I mean, it's similar. When I went strict to change my diet from being a sugar burner to being a fat burner, there were times that I was in ketosis, and it's fine. There's a great book called The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Performance by two doctors, Volek and Phinney, Volek, and Phinney, Phinney. They wrote The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Living and The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Performance. Okay. And I went straight to the performance one, although I did get the other one. But essentially, they were writing this book because these guys are in a state of ketosis on a regular basis. And so they're much more kind of higher fat, and they got their meats in there and stuff. But I don't think it's necessary to be in that state on a regular basis. There's more science coming out that shows it's really good to sort of dip in there. It's like intermittent fasting. So what you're doing is you're creating this state where your body thinks, oh no, I need to kill everything to survive, essentially. So for me, I think it comes back to being an experiment of one. Try out ketosis and see if it works for you. If your energy level's good and you feel good and you're not really hungry. That was one of the biggest things for me, is I would always be hungry. And because I was eating stuff and it was like, increasing the insulin, and it was just like I would be up and down like this. Now, I can have dinner at 6:00 and, nothing, or maybe a little something, and then not have another thing until, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm fine because my body's used to burning fat. So in the book, they say it takes 3 to 4 weeks to click your body over from a sugar burner to a fat burner. So for me, I don't necessarily think ketosis is the quote unquote, and again, it's all individual, right? So I don't know that that's the right way, but what I would say is try it out and see. I love being on a low carb diet, mostly vegetarian, occasional fish, occasional eggs. And for me, that just works really well. I have nuts in the middle of the day to snack on, and then Shakeology, and I'm good to go.
Does anybody else have any other questions for him?
I haven't been looking at the chat room, but I will.
Nobody really asked questions there. Lots of comments. I think every time I had one, you ended up answering it.
I like that men do yoga too. It's so funny. The first time, Carrie Ann, the first time I went into that yoga class I mentioned, there was like 125 people, and there was like 15 guys. And as a young single guy at the time, I was like 26 at the time, whatever. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's like, it was awesome. I was like, I'm not telling anyone. And I told all of my guy friends, and like none of them have done it. It's funny how it's even still, right? Like guys are just afraid to do yoga. I don't know what it is.
I do have a couple questions. I forgot. Do you ever find people, I don't know, these people probably aren't in your studio, but do you ever find people who don't initially love yoga and then they end up falling in love with it? Because I feel like I'm kind of like that. Like I attempt yoga all the time, and then I think I get bored. I don't give it a chance long enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's just, I think it was lucky for me that it was like the first time I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it was just a time in my life where, it just clicked right away. But I have absolutely had people, and I think a lot of it is about the teacher. A lot of it is about the person that you're following, not following, but whoever's class you're going to. And depending on if you vibe with them, like this guy was great, and he was perfect for me at that time. And so I would say definitely give it time for sure. And you'll see, I mean, I don't know. Well, I should say I understand now on a deep level that the yoga practice is so beneficial for so many other areas of my life, from a physical standpoint to like de-stress, right? To all those things. So maybe at some point you'll find, whether it's, through Beachbody On Demand or through your gym or a yoga studio, whatever, you'll kind of find something that sort of clicks for you, hopefully.
Yeah.
You should try out
I,
my sessions. No, just kidding.
so see, this is sad, but I've never made it that far. Because I get in like I do the first, like few, and then because I just had a baby, so my last 3 weeks of pregnancy, I was like, I'm gonna do the 3-week yoga retreat leading up to the due date because it'll take my mind off of it, and I love all the reasons for yoga. I love it, but I couldn't get past the first week, and so now I'm like, maybe I should just skip,
Yeah.
and go.
Yeah, totally.
I love a challenge, and I think I should just do that.
Yeah, you definitely should do that for sure. There's no reason. That's the thing is like, I remember before they even had the Beachbody Yoga Studio and people went through the 3-week yoga retreat, they were like, what do we do now? And I was like, now you've done everything. So just go back and do the ones that you want, like piecemeal them together. If you want more of a challenge, you go to my week. If you want less of a challenge, you do Vetus and Faith, or,
okay.
Or if you like one of us more than the other one, then do that person on a regular basis. There's no reason why not. I mean, it's funny. I know one teacher here in LA who's been teaching the same exact sequence for 30 years. Wow. It's like changed so little because the bottom line is you're changing on a regular basis. And so you could do the same sequence pretty regular. I mean, it's nice to have options. It's great that there's so many options in Beachbody On Demand now, from exercise and yoga, but you can do some of the similar stuff because one day you're going to feel more flexible based on the fact that you slept more and you're better rested, as opposed to a day where you're eating too much or stressed out for some reason. You can do the same exact practice and it can feel totally different. So.
Cool.
I feel like I have to jump in here. This is Jenny. So I was a person who hated yoga. It was my least favorite thing in the entire world, mostly because I sucked at it because I'm so inflexible. And I took yoga with Ted because he's been like doing yoga for my company for a while now. And I still hated it. I couldn't do it. I sweat so much, and no one around me seemed to be having such a hard time. And I was just, this is crap. Like, I like cardio, I like endorphins, and I hate yoga. But then I got injured, and so I had to start teaching myself to like things like yoga. And honestly, like what I did is I just sucked it up. Like it was the only workout that I could do. And now I look forward to going to yoga every week, specifically to Ted's class, which is hard. And when you get subbed, it's more of a recovery than it is like this full-on workout. Like I get sad about it, but I was that person. Like I was like, oh, free yoga, let's go. I'm gonna go do it. And then I was like, wow, I hate this. But now, like every week, like I block off my calendar. I'm like, do not schedule a meeting with me because I have to go to yoga.
I love that. That's awesome.
Do you feel like, Jenny, do you feel the like the stress relief and stuff like that?
I do, especially because like I'm usually doing it in the middle of the day, and it's so nice when you're having like it turns your day around that way, and you get to just lay there at the end, and then you want to take a nap, but you just kind of like shut off for a little bit, just for an hour in the middle of the day, and then your morning and your afternoon can be completely different.
Maybe I need to get my 5-year-old son to do it.
I think a lot of people do that.
That's a good idea. It's for 5 years old. He's just starting to be able to kind of get through a little bit, like doing some poses. I don't know that he'd be doing a full class, but he could sort of have fun with you.
Cool. Kirsty, do you have any questions? Eileen, Caitlin, they're all muted. Okay, I'm going to assume they don't.
No problem.
All right.
No, I think he already answered my questions about Ultimate Reset.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think I have anywhere else. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm motivated to go try your yoga sessions and to eat better. And I'm gonna go watch a bunch of documentaries on Netflix to brainwash myself.
Take them all with a grain of salt. That's all.
Right? Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, they all have some stuff. But have you seen Cowspiracy?
I haven't. This is the same guys that did Cowspiracy. It was I watched a ton of them, and I was like, oh, do I need to watch another one of these things?
Yeah, Cowspiracy kind of focuses more on the agriculture industry's impact on the environment.
Yeah,
and still a little bit of, like, the corruption and things like that. But so it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. I'll watch it eventually.
But then then the dairy thing gets.
I know, man. It's like, but then soon, they're gonna, it's like it has to be organic, and you gotta just basically grow it in your backyard and eat it, and don't have anything out at any time, anywhere, ever. It's like.
Yeah. So, do you eat dairy? You eat cheese?
I do. Yeah, I do. I eat cheese. I try to stick with goat cheese. I think goat cheese is probably a little bit better than some other cheeses, but not too much. I don't do pizza, and you have no idea. I'm so bummed that I'm low carb now because I don't eat pizza. And I'm from New York. Like, there's no better place for pizza than New York. And I remember.
Yeah, it is. It's called Chicago, and I'm low carb now.
Yeah, I heard Chicago has good pizza. I've never been.
You wouldn't do like a gluten-free crust or something like that?
No, because there's still carbohydrates there, but what I do now is I'll just have a bite or two. Like if somebody's having pizza, or maybe I'll just say, I'll take like we were at this thing in Florida, and it was like this amazing gluten-free and vegan cheese of all things, right? So it was like vegan cheese and gluten-free crust. I was like, all right, I have to try some, and I just had a couple bites because that's. I just sort of monitor it throughout the day. That's all.
Yeah. Do you do anything with you said 15-month-old? Like, have you had to change up anything for her, or does she just basically eat what you guys eat?
My wife pretty much cooks her own food. She's never really had processed food. So she's starting to eat a little bit more solid food, but mostly it's, she'll steam some vegetables and put them in the blender and do that. And but veggie burgers. So my wife will make but all good healthy stuff, and she'll have some pieces of the veggie burgers and stuff like that. But yeah, we're trying to get it to where she can eat what we eat, so it's close. But she's like the healthiest eater it's like it's ridiculous. But you know what? She's eating eggs, and after last night, my wife was like, I think I have to turn down some of the eggs. Like, it's maybe she shouldn't be having so many eggs, so we'll see.
Oh. All right.
Oh, it's crazy.
Were you saying something, Jenny?
No, I was just laughing.
Oh, all right. Well, we don't want to take any more of your time. So thank you so much. If you'll have to let us know if you do pop into Summit. Where were you last year? Like, hanging around, like, would we have seen you somewhere?
So I was on stage with Tony Thursday night as soon as I arrived. Okay. And then I think they made the announcement maybe it was that night they made the announcement.
I kind of remember that.
Yeah, and then I was on stage with him at the Super Workout. And then we had a whole day of shoots on Friday, so we weren't really.
Yeah, our friend, they shot was that 22-minute hardcore?
So that's right. Tony was teaching 22-minute hardcore, yeah.
Or he was shooting for something, and our friend had rented a house, and Beachbody asked if they could use it, and Tony was there, and they were filming, and that was it.
No,
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Kirsty, do you remember? Was that for 22? It was for a video or something.
That was getting stories from coaches who had done it.
Yeah.
At her house. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Very cool.
Thank you, Ted. That was awesome.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure. Happy to chat and spread the good word of health and fitness.
Very good. Okay. Well, thank you so much and have a great evening. And,
Thanks, you guys. Yeah. And we'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye.
Yay!